place in politics. Now, here's the clash. The federal government insists that public servants must stay out of politics to remain neutral and professional. But the NLC says there's no law in Nigeria that actually bars civil servants from political participation. It's a question that cuts right into the heart of our democracy. Do civil servants lose their political rights the moment they take up government employment, or does the Constitution guarantee their full participation like every other citizen? Well, to help us unpack the legality, the rights issues, and of course the implications for governance, I'm being joined this morning by lawyer and human rights lawyer Festus Ogun, who is also the managing partner at FO Legal. Welcome to the show, Festus.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth, for having me on your show.
Thank you very much for joining. Let's start at the heart of it. Now, does any Nigerian law clearly say that civil servants cannot participate in politics?
So, there is no law known to our Constitution that prohibits civil servants from participating in politics. No law. Civil servants are citizens of Nigeria who are employed into the public service either by the state, local government, or the federal government of Nigeria. Therefore, they enjoy the right to freedom of association. They also enjoy the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. If by being associated in a political party, aligns with their ideology, aligns with their thought, aligns with their conscience, there is no rule that can stop them from exercising this right. Importantly, the provision of Section 40 of the Constitution is also clear that, like every other person, civil servants in Nigeria are entitled to the right to freedom of association. So the right to form even a political party or join a political party is constitutionally guaranteed. It falls under the right to freedom of association. But that is not all. If you look at the provision of Section 66 1F, Section 107 1F, 137 1G, and 182 1G of the 1999 Constitution, it provides that a person shall not be qualified for election if the person is employed in the civil service and has not resigned, withdrawn, or retired from this employment at least 30 days to the election. What does that mean? It simply means that, yes, you have the right as a civil servant to belong to a political party. In fact, the law envisages that you can, in fact, contest for an election as a civil servant. The only thing the Constitution says is that 30 days before the election you are contesting for, you must have resigned from that employment of government. So, if the Constitution can say that you can only resign 30 days before the election, it simply means that the Constitution, in fact, recognizes that you can contest election. You can belong to a political party, because you can't contest election if you don't belong to a political party. So if the Constitution says that, a civil servant can even contest, it means that the Constitution envisages that you belong to a political party, you are involved in the electoral process. The only requirement is that you must, as a matter of law, resign from your employment with the government of the federation or the state 30 days before the election.
Well,
anything outside that is not acceptable.
Festus, the argument that the government will be having right now is that it's about neutrality, that civil servants must serve the state, and it's not about political interest. But really, from a legal standpoint, is this a strong enough argument, or is it more of a policy preference here?
Policy preference, yes, but is it rooted in law? I doubt. There is no law, no single law that prevents a civil servant from belonging to a political party it might be argued that they will be distracted from their primary duties. Yes, that is arguable. But the most important thing is that if we have an efficient system, if you're absent from work, you get queried. So long as a civil servant is able to manage his job as in the civil service, I do not think there is anything stopping a civil servant from belonging to a political party and even participating actively. But the question is, if our civil service is efficient, will you be able to actively participate when you are in service? I mean, you go to work almost every other day. Will you be able to actively participate in politics? You know, the challenge we have in this part of the world is that we take politics as a business. What do you do for a living? I'm a politician. It's not done in any part of the world. You must have what you do for a living. Are you a doctor? Are you a nurse? Are you a pharmacist? Are you an engineer? Are you a lawyer? Are you a civil servant? You must have what you do for a living. Politics cannot be a full-time job like we have it in Nigeria, and that is why they steal recklessly when they get to power. You must have a decent source of income. It doesn't make any difference if you work for the Nigerian authorities. It doesn't make any difference if you work for the government of a state. What the law provides is that, under the Constitution, you have the right to freedom of association. The law also expects that you join a political party or you are a member of a political party. The mere fact that you are a civil servant does not rob you of that constitutional right. And in fact, I had mentioned that even the Constitution gives you that right to even contest election. But to now outlaw civil servants not to participate in politics is an overreach. I think it's an overreach. So what I feel should be done is to make policies that brings about efficiency in the civil service. If you want to participate in politics, the ideal thing, if you want to actively participate to the point of maybe holding executive positions in the political party or taking political appointments or contesting election, sometimes it requires time. It requires focus. It requires industry. So it requires that you may step aside from the civil service work. That is an acceptable argument so that you are not distracted from your primary assignment. That's an acceptable argument.
Right. And we've seen all that democracy. Okay, carry on.
But to now say that they cannot participate in politics is an overreach. It's not supported. It's an argument or a position or a policy that is not supported by law. They have the right to participate in politics insofar as it does not clash with their primary duties. And what does it mean to participate in politics? Is it to belong to a political party or to support a candidate? These are questions we need to ask ourselves.
Right. First, we've seen in other democracies, we've seen different approaches to this. What really can we learn? What can Nigeria learn from the way civil service and politics are separated? What can we learn from other countries?
What I think we can learn is to stop making politics a business of a few set of people. Politics is the business of everyone, including you and I, including civil servants. We must be able to make statements. We must be able to contribute meaningfully to the growth and advancement of our democracy. But when you are shutting the populace, the workers, when you are shutting them out, the civil servants, you are shutting them out of, actively engaging in the way and manner our political space is run. I believe it's even undemocratic. It's unconstitutional because the Constitution does not permit for it. So what I think we need to learn is to make, like we have in other democracies, politics the business of everyone. And that is why a commissioner will not see himself as someone who is way and above the civil servants he met in the ministry. The civil servants have the right to contest election. That's what the Constitution says. It says they can contest election. The only thing is that 30 days before election, you have to resign.
Now, if we're seeing that the federal government enforces its stance and the NLC resists, what could this actually mean for governance, workers' rights, and even stability in the public sector? I think we lost Festus for a bit. We're just speaking on the what it could actually mean for governance, workers' rights, and stability in the sector if the federal government enforces a stance and the NLC decides to resist. This is still the big story right here on the BDTV Breakfast Show. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. This is still the BDTV Breakfast Show, and this is the big story. Just before we went on the break, I was speaking to Festus Ogun, human rights lawyer and managing partner at FO Legal, and we're speaking on the federal government and its stance, and I was asking a question just before we went on the break, that if the federal government decides to enforce their stance and the NLC resists, what could this mean for governance, for workers' rights, and even for stability in the public sector?
Yes. Well, again, I would support the position of the Nigerian Labour Congress, resisting the temptation by the Nigerian authorities to stifle the democratic rights of a civil servant. I think it's a good opportunity for the Nigerian workers, particularly the civil servants, to take a stand, a firm stand, that they have a right to be actively involved in political participation. It is their constitutional right, it's a human right, and I believe that this right must not be taken away under any guise whatsoever. It is in the interest of our nascent and tottering democracy that these individuals, these civil servants, are allowed to participate in political activities, because they have the right to join political parties under the Constitution. They have the right to contest under the Constitution. All the law says, all the Constitution says, is that 30 days before the election which they seek to contest, they should resign. If that is the case, what is the legal basis? What is the moral basis? What is the constitutional basis? I cannot find any. So I believe that, yes, there might be an argument back and forth between the authorities and the NLC and, organized labor union of the civil servants scattered all over the country. But the most important point is, how does the policy help our democracy? I do not think it will help our democracy in any way. The problem with the Nigerian civil service is not and cannot be traced to the participation in politics. Majority of them do not participate in politics because of this fear of being victimized after participation, right? So I think this is an opportunity to resolve the imbroglio once and for all, so that our people can have a full understanding that the mere fact that you are a civil servant does not necessarily erode you of your constitutional rights to freedom of association and to political participation.
So what really is the middle ground that we have here? I mean, I hear everything you've said, but really, what's the middle ground that we have here? Should Nigeria be legislating more clearly? Should civil servants have full political rights without restrictions? What's the middle ground?
I stated earlier that, for me, I think the fear of the Nigerian authorities is rooted in the fact that when civil servants are actively involved in politics, there will be distraction on their assignments, on their duties, on their task. So How do you address that? You simply address that by ensuring an efficient civil service. The civil service in other parts of the world, especially in developed democracy, is a prestigious role. People fight to become civil servants in other parts of the world. In fact, if you go to a democracy like the United States, you will see establishments making posts, making social media publication to the effect that, oh, we have just employed someone from the civil service. It's a thing of prestige. But can we say that in the Nigerian system? Say, for instance, you are employing someone from the Ministry of Information, and you are proudly saying that we have employed this person to BusinessDay. It is not a daily occurrence in Nigeria because the system is not efficient. So if the system is efficient, even if you are participating in politics, you still have to be at work. You still have to do your role. You have to carry out your role as a civil servant. So because civil service is just like every other job, you are only working for the authorities. You are working in a role for the authorities. So if that is the case, I do not think that they should be stopped in any way. I understand the fear, but that fear can be allayed if proper machinery is put in place to ensure that the civil service is reformed. Reforming the civil service is the issue here, and not stopping them from participating in politics, because that right was not given to them by any civil service rule. It's an inalienable right. It's a constitutional right. It's a human right. So it cannot be taken away under any guise whatsoever, because the Constitution says they can contest. If the Constitution says they can contest, what else do you need to show that they can participate in the political process? Can you contest an election if you are not in politics? No, but the Constitution says public servants can contest.
All right, thank you very much, Festus Ogun, lawyer and managing partner at FO Legal. Thank you very much for joining the Big Story this morning.
Thank you for having me.
This has been the Big Story right here on the BDTV Breakfast Show. Up next is Social Listening. Do stay with us.